Love and Light family, welcome back to Moments with Milah. Thank you so much for coming back for another rest day video. I do appreciate this time. I absolutely do. I know this is April, which is the lower body challenge this month, but the first full week, as I explained in the previous video, I'm only going to do it one time each week because the exercises stay the same, right? But this is not about the physical part of wellness. Well, it is in a way, but it isn't. So today I have joining me again Professor Carl Tone Jones, and we're going to basically just kind of dive into what protection really looks like. Like everybody's talking so much now, and we're speaking on the Will and Jada situation, but I don't want to really harp on that situation because it's so much bigger than that. Um, it's a really big issue in our community because, and well, it's really evidenced by the fact that so many sisters decided to voice that they felt like because this man stood up and slapped another man in front of the public, that this was really a display of black men protecting black women. Um, for me, I didn't feel that way. I didn't feel that way at all. And I guess the bigger question for me is who really has the responsibility of protection in a relationship, in a friendship, period. But more specifically, for right now, I want to talk about the relationship aspect because um, I'll just give my take, and I'm going to take this question to you. But for women, there's definitely a way that we can carry ourselves to where situations like that don't happen. But even if we look at this Will and Jada situation prior to the event and everything that happened at the Oscars, um, was she ever shown to protect him? I mean, truly, was she ever shown to truly protect her husband? Some may go back to the 2016 Oscars and say, well, she really stood up for him. He didn't, get the Oscar at that time, and she really went to bat for it. What was it, Oscar So White or
Yeah.
something like that, right? So she really went to bat. On one hand, you might say he should have done it since he was the one who was up for the award. But was she really, when you look at everything that you've seen since this event transpired and before this, which she pretty much just spiritually annihilated her husband to the public. So he was already broken. I don't have a lot of sympathy for Will. I'll explain that as we go. But was she really doing it even in 2016 to protect him? Really and truly? Was that about standing up for him, or was it about making 2016 about her as well? Because we know they're imbalanced as far as where they are in their careers, right? They're not the same. He would be considered an A-list celebrity where she's D or C list, right? So, how do you feel about that? Do you feel and I'll start with that part first. Do you feel it's both our responsibility, the man and the woman? Do we protect each other, or is it protection just a thing for men?
Well, protection. There's a dance we do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the man is responsible for that physical protection,
Mm-hmm.
protection of the home, protection of the family, protection of the people inside physically, to make sure that there's no physical
Right.
incursions. All right, and we're just keeping this like basic ABCs.
Mm-hmm.
The woman is responsible for the protection of that man's heart. You know what I'm saying? The protection of his spirit. She's his
Mm-hmm.
peace. She's his zen. She's his reason. When as men, when the testosterone starts forming, I know we talk a lot about women being emotional, but
Mm-hmm.
when that emotion is triggered, a lot of times men, get into that fight or flight situation. And once it becomes clear that they're going to get into that fight
Yeah.
aspect, then there's only one person really that can calm that person down, that even has a chance.
Very true.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And unless they have an abusive relationship, you know what I'm saying? Sorry about that. Unless they have an abusive relationship, um, then she should be able to be his calm. And what I saw in that particular situation, we're just using them as avatars
Right.
here.
Right.
But
Because it's bigger than them. I just
uh,
want to say that.
what I saw in that particular situation, I saw that something happened. He took it very lightly,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of the joke, right? He took it very lightly. And when people are talking about she was hurt, I didn't see hurt in her actions and her facial expression. We're both therapists, so we both recognize facial cues,
Mm-hmm.
and we recognize that's something we need to talk about later on too.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, but we recognize facial cues.
Yeah.
So we both recognize that wasn't a look of hurt,
Mm-mm.
despair. That was a look of anger. You know, she had a look of anger in regards
Mm-hmm.
to what happened, what
Mm-hmm.
transpired,
Yeah.
and she shot Will a look.
Mm-hmm. Who was
And
already spiritually annihilated, already trying to please this woman.
oh well, see, and so when we, and that's like I said, that's a deep dive we want to get into as well.
Mm-hmm.
But so it was one of those things where he reacted in such a way, and I say reacted,
Yeah.
and see that's not masculine because as men we're literally supposed to be like our emotion is supposed to be based in reason. Our
Absolutely.
logic is supposed to be based in reason.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that wasn't a reasonable situation
Right.
for him. And I hear all the people out here talking about that's how you do and that's how you protect. I'm gonna tell you right now, if there are any people out here who believe that, you got to be careful. And the reason why you got to be careful is because we don't live in that world. We don't,
Very true.
we don't live in a place like the average person doesn't get invited to the Oscars. An
Mm-hmm.
average black person definitely doesn't. I mean, that's why Jada came out 2016 and said Oscars so white.
So white.
So average person doesn't get invited. The average black person doesn't get invited to a place like that. It's considered like prestigious in the white
Mm-hmm.
community,
Mm-hmm.
which but so one of the issues that we have is trying to put ourselves in their shoes,
Mm-hmm.
and we can't. They don't live by our code, and they don't
At
suffer the
all.
consequences of our code. Because that situation, that wasn't him protecting his wife. That was his wife putting a battery in his back and sending him out there into a potential danger situation.
Absolutely agree.
And what we're witnessing right now is the slow response. See, everybody saw the first part. They saw the smack.
Yeah.
They didn't see the repercussions. In the streets, the repercussions are so much faster. It's so much faster.
Excellent point.
There is a repercussion. People assume that there was no repercussion
Mm-hmm.
because they hadn't seen the repercussion
Mm-hmm.
unfold. The repercussion is happening
Yeah.
slowly,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not coming from the usual suspect.
Right.
So in the street, it's coming from that person you hit.
Yeah.
Well, he offended their institution.
Hmm.
The Oscars is the epitome of Hollywood.
Absolutely.
It's considered like it's literally like the pinnacle.
Mm-hmm.
Like only we talk secret societies, whatever you want to
Yeah.
talk. But if you get into that ball, you got to be connected. And on that floor, they consider that sacred. That's their religion.
Mm-hmm.
They consider that a sacred place. So his consequences are going to slowly occur over a longer period of time because that's how it happens when you're in a place of power.
Mm-hmm.
And Will Smith was a very powerful man. But
Absolutely.
um he had a lot of influence in Hollywood, even if he didn't have that same influence in his own home.
And notice how that's slowly dwindling too. His power with regard to his influence in Hollywood. That's
Mhm.
changing. Did you see today that he actually what was that? He resigned from the Academy?
Yeah, he resigned from the Academy.
Yeah.
So, he basically, the Academy's membership
Mm-hmm.
based is, people who can vote on the best actor, best film, this and the other. But he resigned because he's being investigated.
Yeah.
And the investigation is still ongoing in terms of what the potential consequences were.
Mm-hmm.
And see, a lot of people are saying, "Well, we didn't care about." Listen, and this is something we really need to make clear. All right, Will Smith ain't you. He's not you. He's worked his whole life to get to this point. That's not your goals. It's not what you would not care about. You have no connection to that. None of us do.
Mm-hmm.
Because none of us have been in blockbuster film after blockbuster film and tried to paint a picture of who we are to fit in that particular aspect in society. So yeah, the Oscars don't mean a damn thing to us.
Mm-hmm.
Being in the Academy don't mean a damn thing to us. but it was something he worked with. Or other words, we wouldn't even be having a conversation about what happened in 2016.
Mhm.
So, we're going to step it down a little bit because we're going to talk about more so symptomatically a lot of things that happen that to the psyche of all parties involved.
Oh yeah.
All parties involved because there's three
Mhm.
major players. There's Chris Rock, there's Will Smith, but there's also Jada Pinkett Smith,
Mhm.
who has been extremely quiet throughout
Isn't
this.
that interesting?
Since the ongoing, she's been extremely quiet.
Mhm.
But we're
Mhm.
going to talk about all those influences because I think that's an important fact. Those are important factors to understand this from a place of health and wellness.
Absolutely.
So, one of the things I want to know, as a woman,
Mhm.
you know, is in that particular situation, where do you place, like say, let's make it more reasonable.
Mhm.
Say we're in maybe an urban setting,
Mhm.
all right? Say we're in an urban setting, and somebody is an immediate physical threat to you. What do you expect from me?
I know what you're gonna do. So I know that it's not so much of what I expect from you because I know the type of man that you are. Um, and I also know that because of the type of man you are, um, you really armed me in advance with, a lot of things that I know to do to protect myself, and to de-escalate the situation on my own. But because I know how you will react and because you're more valuable to me than that incident or whatever it may be. um I'm definitely going to approach it with caution because again, if you react and you're strictly like this person is physically trying to harm me, I don't feel like they would even have the chance to get to that part, to be honest with you, because you yeah, I don't feel like what I'm saying. I don't feel like it would get to that, but I know that there's things that I could do um, to alert you in a way that is not going. I mean, we have to know like the surroundings too. Here's the thing: I'm not going to be like, hey, come get this man. He's doing this to me because I don't know if he's got John, Jake, Larry, all of them out here waiting for you. It might just be me and you. So it just requires you to think. If and I go back to how women, we always say, well, some women say they're strong, we're so powerful, we have to act like it. We have to be able to think. Part of your power, sisters, is logic. You can't, everything can't be, reactionary based for you because you want your man to come home, right? And if you know this man loves you, he cares about you, somebody's trying to harm you, he's going for it. He's not gonna, everything else is gonna go out the window, right? But that's because he knows the type of woman that you are. And even when you're not a woman who is, necessarily virtuous or, spiritually concerned about the well-being of your man, physically or mentally, even if you're not that woman, Will Smith is a perfect example that he'll still react. This man was battered. And I hate to even say it like that, but there's no other way to say it. You can literally see this man had a breakdown. His emotions within seconds went from, and again, I don't want to talk about him, but I'm just trying to
No,
to
yeah.
compare it in that sense because he went from laughing at the joke to slapping this man to walking off the stage. He slightly smiled, kind of looked at Jada like, "Did I do good? Did I do good?" You know what I'm saying? And went back, sit down, and then began to cuss this man out in
Mhm.
front of this, you know what I'm saying? So we just have to do better with listening in advance because when a man loves you, he's going to give you the tools way before that situation happens. You're always telling me, make sure I'm watching all around, pay attention to my surroundings at all times, things like that, making sure I have, mace, other things, and I ain't gonna tell you everything I got because you come up on me. Surprise, surprise. But anyway, but it has to happen in advance. You have to have proper communication with your mate before that even happens. You also have to avoid places like that. You don't want to. I'm not a bar person. I'm not a club person. So we're not going to get into those situations anyway. But you all might be. Some of you may go to places like that. So if your man is telling you in advance, hey, make sure you do this. Let's not do this. Listen. There are certain things that men innately are equipped with that we're not equipped with. We're designed this way for a reason. But if we don't have proper communication before, being in that situation, it's probably going to be chaos.
Well,
You know?
not just chaos. You know, and especially in our community, men have been relegated to um, resources, serving
Yeah.
primary resources.
Mm-hmm.
Either he's going to pay my bills,
Yeah.
either he's going to sex me down, or either he's going to be the battering ram. He's going to be the attack dog.
Mm-hmm.
But in other aspects, it's like, okay, well, now that you've done all those things, shut up.
Yeah. Oh
And
yeah, I see it all the time.
and it's like,
Yeah.
I'm never going to give you a compliment without breaking you down or knocking you
Mm-hmm.
down a few pegs first. And in this particular situation, we saw a man who was trying, who was out of sorts. I mean,
Oh,
like you
clearly.
mentioned, he had like we talking about like
Yes.
the diagnosis or what you could possibly analyze from what he had, what happened. Like you said, he had basically a manic depressive, response.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Uh, this is the whole definition of bipolar.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where he went from being happy and joyous to being angry and violent, and then sobbing uncontrollably throughout the rest of the show.
And then dancing at the party after.
Right. And so it's like all over the place, all these ranges of emotions, which is not normal,
Mm-hmm.
which speaks to a break in his psyche,
Yeah.
a break in his esteem, break in all those different things. And when you really, and then, when you trace it all back, you know what I'm saying? You
Mm-hmm.
look at what's happened to that man publicly over the last 3 years. We start with the red table discussions. And so because we talk about protection and integrity, right? And I talked about it on our show.
That
Somebody
thing.
has to say it.
Mm-hmm.
Me and my brother Jeff Weaver went back and forth on this
Yeah.
particular conversation. But one of the things we talked about mostly was the fact that um, she destroyed her protection
Absolutely.
because he, like I said before, he's that force field. His
Mm-hmm.
presence is that force field.
Mm-hmm.
His
His
masculinity is
presence
that
alone. Yeah.
right. So as a man, I know not to tamper with another man's woman because that's going to cause a conflict between me and him. His masculinity requires that.
Absolutely.
So, you know, and I'm not justifying the joke, right? We're not rationalizing or justifying the joke, this, that, and the other. We're just talking about the reaction and response to it.
And I want to talk about that too, but go ahead.
Right. Oh yeah, we're going. Yeah, that's something we can talk because that plays a very important role in
Mm-hmm.
this. So um, the place that he was at as a man, he was been emasculated by his wife.
Mm-hmm.
They took conversations that should have never left their home,
Yeah.
and those conversations have been public. All right. His wife, everybody knows about the entanglement situation, but
Mm-hmm.
let's go past that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Even though that's a very difficult hurdle to,
Absolutely.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we got the entanglement. Now you have his daughter writing
Oh.
a letter to Tupac. Now his daughter wasn't alive at the same time Tupac
Right.
was alive, and the letter talks about, you know, my mommy misses you. We know that you're alive. Come back and make my mom so my mommy can be happy again.
And so where'd she get that from?
Right. Um, and this became public.
Wow.
Like a picture was taken. Like she took a picture of this,
Mm-hmm.
so it wasn't just something that stayed in the house.
Right. As it should have.
And then you had another conversation, or not just another conversation, but then like on Tupac's 50th birthday, she's sharing poetry and intimate moments that they shared publicly on her social media. You go to her social media page days leading up to the Oscars, and it's
Oh,
all about her.
it was all about her.
Not one picture, not one mention of her husband.
Not one.
Now you go to his page, he's sitting there, and like he said, if you watch new videos of Will Smith talking about his mental health and his hurdles and things of that nature,
Mm-hmm.
he's often talking about being abused psychologically as a child.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing his father in so many different
Being
places,
a people pleaser.
and being a people pleaser. So his whole thing, he built that whole house, called it her lake.
Mm-hmm.
She still wasn't pleased. He gave her the red room, the red table. She still wasn't pleased. She used the red table to
Planned a
ridicule
birthday
him.
party for 3 years. She still wasn't pleased.
Right. Everything he did and publicly, and she made it about him. This was a sign of your ego. This was your
Mm-hmm.
ego. So it was always tearing him down. Nothing he did. And he would go on talk show after talk show after talk show, talking about how she, her affinity for Tupac made him jealous. Talk about how how she was how he was always trying to replace him in
Hmm.
her heart, and how he could never satisfy her. And then she would come out and say that she was sexually unsatisfied. I mean,
Which is a major blow.
right, right. So it's like this man is seen by the rest of the world, by the rest of the world
Yeah.
as the model father. Well, I won't go by the model
Well,
father.
yeah.
I won't go that far. But he's seen as like a statesman of the
Yeah.
Hollywood community.
Hmm.
He is the megastar.
Yeah.
You know, and for a black man to be the megastar in that universe, you know what I'm
Fact.
saying,
It's a
is
major achievement.
well, yeah, you know, I mean, you know, we African descendants, so we don't really
Hmm.
care about
Right.
that stuff.
True.
But you know, so that in itself, nothing he could do was good enough for her. And it seemed like that moment when she saw him walking off the stage was the first time that she was
She
pleased
was pleased.
with something he did.
She was happy. She was, and that is something that I was telling you too. Like that is the only time that woman, and I'm not gonna call out her name because again, this is not necessarily personal, but it did open the door for a very necessary discussion that I'm sure will probably go on for a very long time, within our communities. But what he just said about um, her kind of knowing what he'd been through or, about him publicly sharing his childhood traumas. So she knew that. And so,
Mm.
sisters, you got to be really careful when your man shares something with you from his childhood as far as traumas. That is. I hate to use that term narcissist because people throw it around so much without any true understanding of what it really is or looks like. But it was truly a a narcissistic thing that she did by using, his traumas. She knew that he was a pleaser. You don't think that they sat down many, many times before marriage, during marriage, as I was a child, when I was a child, I was trying to please my parents. I was trying to please my dad. And so that was his way. That was his learned behavior, his learned response, or his learned way to get it to seek approval. He did the same thing with her and she used it against him. Like every weakness that he displayed to her, she used it against him. So again, it wasn't just the things that she said about him publicly, it was also the fact that he was vulnerable with her, which is hard for a lot of men to do. A lot of us to say, they'll tell their men, I need you to open up to me, I need you to tell me more, I need you to talk to me. But then the minute you do, he doesn't do something you like. What are you doing? You're stabbing him, you're cutting him with those very same words that he trusted you with. And that's what she did. Every single thing, even going back to, and we're gonna get off of them. We're gonna get off them in a minute, but this is important. Even when you go back to the red table discussion, this woman looked at her husband and said, "I just needed to feel good."
Mm-hmm.
You know, this man is a people pleaser. That is the core of who he is. That is who he is. You cut him down in front of the world once again by saying, I just needed to feel good. It was about her, all about me. It was very selfish, very hurtful. I don't know if y'all paid attention to it, but even then, there was so much sadness in his face. His teeth were clenched at times. He was angry. He was hurt. He was already broken. This one night came along where this man wins one of the biggest, maybe the greatest in his field. I don't really know a whole lot about the Oscars. Don't watch them,
He
don't
worked.
care.
He worked his
He
whole life
worked,
to get
he
it.
did that, right? And he finally got, and then he got what, one of five black men.
Yeah,
So it was major.
and they got what they wanted. Oscar's so white. They had a black production group.
And look what happened because of who? The person who started the
Mm.
Oscar so white. And let me tell you something. I'm going to go back to one more thing with Chris Rock. Um, of course, he has the nonverbal learning, the language disorder, right? We know that, right?
Oh no, no, no.
So,
Most people don't know that.
well, most people maybe don't know
Yeah.
that, but he does. So, and that's a serious disorder where he can't necessarily always recognize social cues. That's kind of what's made him successful over the years. And it was shared. I don't remember what story or where I saw it, but that when he's with his family, he's a different person. Because
Mm-hmm.
he has the big ego when he's on stage, but his self-esteem when he's alone or away from that stage is so low. So he didn't even recognize it. You even see him leaning in, kind of laughing at Will. With, hey, Richard, don't start. But he was leaning into this man,
Mm-hmm.
like, my friend, like I know you. We've been cool. This is that 2016 has been resolved, but no, Jada came to make it about her. Everything leading up to was about her. Has she come out and done anything since then to say, to speak up for Will? You were so verbal at the Oscars So White 2016. You had so much to say. Nothing to protect that man. Like I said, the only thing that she has posted or shared since then was that it's a time for healing and I'm here for it. Not Will's here for it. Not I'm hoping that, the relationship between Chris, Will, and I, that we get on a path to healing. Nothing like that. Nothing. So, and I don't even buy Will's apology because I think his publicist just wrote that. If it was genuine, it would have happened, like you said, it would have happened at the Oscars. It would have happened before he wanted to thank the Academy and thank his peers or whatever. He would have apologized to that man. He didn't do that. You know,
it was a sad occasion.
Very sad.
Because it could, if it was one of those things, and like I said, as black men, we have got to get out of this thing of where our low self-esteem, something both of
Yes.
these men both acknowledge having.
Both of them, as successful as they are.
Yeah. Because the ego, and we talked about this before, the ego replaces, it fills in that void where where your esteem is supposed to be. And this whole thing where you have to run out there and prove to the world that that in itself is what really is toxic masculinity.
Oh, definitely.
And endorse, because that in itself is not that's machismo. That's not how a man does that. I mean, think about it for a second. Think about how the people run the free world, right? And they go to war. The dignitaries sit at the table. They don't get up and slap each other. There's nobody restraining them, fighting back and forth.
Right.
They have to be tactical about how they handle that situation because there's repercussions for their actions. All right. And so when that in that situation, a man who was in his right mind and in his masculine frame would have looked at that, would have saw that,
Absolutely.
would have looked at his wife, would have said, "Okay, baby, I got this." And I would have said, "Baby, I got this."
Yeah, and you would have, and I know that.
And I would have,
I know that.
I would have taken the opportunity because I'm about to get on the biggest stage in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I'm about to have as much time as I need to say what I need to say.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to sit there and calculate and craft my message so that we address the joke that was made before.
Right.
We could talk about how distasteful the joke was. We can bring light to the condition that supposedly, even though Jada said a few days ago that she could care less about what people thought about her bald head.
Thank you.
But we can bring, we could bring attention to that. We could talk about, the fact that, Chris, you made a joke in 2016. So like, well, look at what we did this year. We got a black production crew. We got this, that, and the other. We have black people winning awards all year.
That's right.
We got Questlove and the winning for the documentary. We have Beyonce and Compton performing. The song for the movie. We're honoring a black man here in Richard Williams, who did a wonderful job in raising his daughters to the pinnacle in an all-white sport to be not just champions but dominant, all-time greats. Tennis players. We got 2 black women that's going to be honored here as well. This was this is a night to reinvigorate and he would have been a giant amongst giants. Absolutely. We're not just talking about a giant, because he won the award. He would have came out even bigger.
Absolutely.
In terms of
because of how he handled
dignity and grace, and then in that moment, truly protecting the integrity of black women.
Hello.
Because what he did in that rash moment, he jeopardized his legacy. And when people say, "Oh, well, he has enough money," yeah, he has enough money, but money isn't why he's still doing this.
That's right.
The check
night.
Yeah,
was the reason.
Right.
He was still doing it.
And so many black men ruin their futures, ruin there's a lot of black men who are suffering from those same conditions, but we don't have the resources of a Will Smith. And let's be real, this is rich people having it out in front of the world, rich black people. Chris went back to his mansion, Will and Jada went back to their mansion. When it happens in our communities, when it happens on the streets, where do we go? Where do we go? Do we get to just escape Do we get to leave the neighborhoods that we settle these issues in?
You might go to jail, to the hospital.
And that's one of the things
I'm
we
just
have to,
saying.
so when we have so many, and it's not just sisters, it's brothers saying that this was an accurate expression of black men protecting black women. I have to vehemently disagree
Likewise.
because, and as you said before, physically, it's don't. I'm gonna tell you something, and I told you this
Mm-hmm.
because let's use social media for instance. Because people see your reverence, love, and respect for men,
Mm-hmm.
they already understand that I'm your cover.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in a time when you may say something, they may want to respond,
Mm-hmm. True.
but they think about the fact that she's covered by this man.
Mm-hmm.
She's covered, not in no way where I'm the dominant aspect of this
Right.
relationship because we know we have a dance. We
Mm-hmm.
both we yin and yang.
Absolutely.
We're harmonious in our relationship in this relationship. Not that we're going to give y'all too much.
Mm-hmm.
We're harmonious
Mm-hmm.
in this thing. It's not always easy. Sometimes we have had the difficult conversations, the
Mm-hmm.
difficult
But
moments,
we have them.
right?
That's the point.
And we
Yeah.
communicate and we make sure that communication and I don't feel like you know you'll abandon me in times when I can be vulnerable to you. And see, that's very important to understand as a man to be vulnerable with a woman.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I knowing those things, people aren't going to feel comfortable enough to come for you
True.
because they know they got to deal with me.
That's very
And
true.
so nobody would have felt comfortable enough to come for Jada had she not removed the threat
Absolutely.
of Will being a man
Mm-hmm.
and not being an emasculated
Mm-hmm.
lapdog that he looks like publicly, the butt of all jokes. Even he said in his award speech how he had to deal with the disrespect. But he didn't identify where that disrespect came
With the
from.
abuse. Mm-hmm. Disrespect. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
I mean,
So
right.
so that's very important because when I hear the sisters saying that this is the and this is a trope by the way because sisters, one of the things we have to acknowledge is that you do have protection. Anytime you can call somebody up and say, listen,
Yeah.
such and such is doing this, I need you to come check on me. Such and such is doing this, just like Milah said before, when you can call somebody to help put out one of your fires,
Mm-hmm.
that's protection.
Yeah.
But what I've heard, and this is what I've heard from women in the past, um, that a man seeking to protect them is an insult to their intelligence because that's the assumption that they can't protect themselves. And what I've often found is that's typically, um, a mindset
Mm-hmm.
of women who don't want coverage,
Yeah.
who don't want to be covered until, or they
Yeah.
don't want to answer for some of the antics that they're out there doing.
I agree.
So, I don't want to have to be accountable or
Mm-hmm.
responsible for this, but if I get in trouble, I still want you to defend
Yeah.
and protect me.
Yeah.
And therefore, what significance does that man play in your life? What role does that man play in your life? Like I say, don't go down that alley. You might get
Mm-hmm.
into some trouble. You go down the alley and then call me to that. Yeah, I'll come through, but you just realize you put us both in danger
Right.
because you didn't,
Exactly.
because you were told you were given the hindsight.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And so, uh, in terms of the wellness aspect, the mental wellness, you know, Jada could have even made Will a greater man or a lesser
Absolutely.
man, and she chose the latter. And she still
Unfortunately.
has not been accountable for the damage she's inflicted on her, and she consistently makes it
Yeah.
about her. She consistently makes it, and like I said, when you're dealing with somebody that's a pleaser, that's somebody that's extreme low self-esteem.
Yeah.
And I know I've been there.
Mm-hmm.
It took me therapy to understand that,
Mm-hmm.
to be able
Something
to
we
say,
all need.
yeah, something to say no, you know, and be okay
Mm-hmm.
with people cutting you off and you cutting other people off, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know. I mean, one thing I will say as we move away from this particular part of conversation There's redemption for Will. There's redemption for him. There's redemption for Chris. I'm not so sure that Jada is capable of doing what's necessary for redemption for her.
I don't even think that she wants to. And why? It's because Will isn't who she wants. Will is who she ended up with. Will is who she settled for, who she ended up having children with. So she stayed in a situation. She's been making that man pay for it ever since. And will continue to make him pay for it. I don't think that this situation will change who she is because that's just who she is. Do you see what I'm saying? And who he is seems to be, if in all this time, it's been 20, however many years they've been married, that's who he is. You know, I don't want to get into their children because I don't like anybody speaking on my children, but it is what it is. Pay attention. I'll leave it at that,
Well, one thing we can say, right? And like we said, we're just using them because we
Yeah.
really spend a lot
We
of
didn't
time
want to
on
move
them.
past. We didn't even intend to talk about them this long, but it's almost like it's one of those conversations that once you start, there's something else you realize about it. And I get the brothers who are, from their perspective, saying, oh, this is a black man protecting a black woman because they're looking at the fact that it happened um, in front of white people. They're looking at it like that. Well, he disrespected her in front of white people, so he handled that in front of them. Really and true, is that really where we are right now as grown adult men? Are we really there? Nobody decided to think. Is that why we were defeated in the first place? Because we're so emotional? Because we can't think? That was true. That was a man literally reacting. As they say, women are reactionary and emotional. That was a man, an emasculated man, acting like what they would say, or what people say a woman would act like. Would lash out, and I'm gonna go hit you. I'm gonna go fight her because you offended me. I do not. I would have been so. Like I said on your show, which is somebody has to say it, and also the No Go Zone on the IDP Expressions Network. So y'all need to subscribe as well. But as I told you then, if that would have happened, you wouldn't even necessarily have. I mean, I know you would have, but I would have been. I would have, and I said break his wrist, and I didn't mean it like that. But I'm saying I would have been holding on to him, and I'm saying that because he's not a little man. He'd have been trying to get up there, and that whole little skydiving green dress would have been shredded because I'd have been like, no, no, this is not where it's at. That was you. How can you allow a man when you know you can't love somebody when you allow him to ruin himself? You've been with this man long enough, raised a family to know this is his dream. But is the problem that his dream wasn't involving you, Jada?
Well, I want to go back to something you said earlier about the children, right? Because this type of thing happens. Like their son Jaden
Mm-hmm.
put a tweet out saying, "This is how we do it."
Which was,
You know, and one of the things but you have to really understand is that happens a lot. You see the it's not just the love interest that this affects.
mm-hmm.
This is also sons
Yeah.
going out to defend the honor of their mothers, brothers. I know cats dudes that I grew up with that got murdered because their sisters
Yeah, me
were
too.
called them into to come deal with somebody
Yeah.
that in a relationship, this that and the other, and they called them, and then they ended up getting murdered because they showed up
Mm-hmm.
at their place and those dudes was ready for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and the question is, um so because we what's the cost, and is the cost worth it? The cost of protection. And um and and we have to really understand what protection really is,
Mm-hmm.
because in
And the
the
responsibility.
yeah, this is a chess game. This world, this life, the thing we move, you have to be strategic about how we move,
Yes.
and especially as men. And this is why I bring it back to Will, because he could have looked at his wife and then
Yeah.
became a man in that moment
In
to
that.
her. You know what I'm saying? I'll take care of it. And we
Mm-hmm.
go back to Chris Rock. Uh, for those of you who don't know, Chris Rock had a non-verbal communication disorder,
Mm-hmm.
social disorder. That literally means he cannot recognize social cues. And a lot of people don't understand, but I say that's one or two check boxes off being autistic.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people thought he might have had been autistic in his life, Asperger's, But one of the things, so he went and got tested. So this has been
Yeah.
news for the last few years.
And
So
7 hours of therapy each week.
yeah,
He's still getting.
yeah. So to help him understand, he's had broken relationships. Not but that, I know members of his family.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I've known members of his family for the last 25, 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, in fact, his cousin, talked about family events
Mm-hmm.
that they've had, you know, and not to get much into their personal business, but they say even at family events, he's socially awkward, you know. So, what I mean? And it's one of those things people say, well, he can do this, that. Listen, if anybody ever saw the movie Rain Man,
Right.
you know, where he can count, he was good at counting, proficient at counting numbers,
Mm-hmm.
but every other aspect of society, he couldn't function.
Yeah.
Albert Einstein was a brilliant man, but almost got expelled from school because he would show up to school without his clothes on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So just because somebody can be brilliant in one area,
Mm-hmm.
typically that's because the majority, we use like what, 10% of our brain,
Yeah.
the majority of their brain function is geared toward that particular talent.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest of their things, the things we do, nonchalant things we do without thinking, secondary, our social cues, like I said, being able to read things, this and the
Yeah.
other, making eye contact, and we're not able to do that. That's why so many people thought it was fake. Like, why was he laughing and smiling? He didn't know
how to
what was
respond.
coming.
Mm-hmm.
he, I mean, it's unprecedented for somebody to walk up on the stage at the Oscars,
Yeah.
unless it's part of a skit. And I don't even think they do they don't really do that at the Oscars. So, their culture, not ours, their culture is a different type of culture. So you wasn't expecting somebody to walk up and smack him in the face. You know what I'm saying? And so it's something we need to talk about as well. Is people are talking about the alopecia. Listen, I had alopecia before. My beard, I had alopecia all up in this area, and I had to trim and shave my beard and goatee all the way down to the bottom of my chin for 2 years. You know what I'm saying? Uh, yeah, it does. It can affect you,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not to the point where. And trust me, believe people would take cracks at it, but trust and believe, it never escalated to a place where where. And I'm a man, so I get it. I get it. It never escalated to a place where, I felt like somebody physically needed to take one.
Right.
But then again, I'm not these people, and I don't even want to get into that too much. But the thing I think I'm really pointing at is we have to really understand in terms of the wellness of our community. First of all, most black people are suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Most black people, black men and black
From
women,
mental health issues that we don't discuss.
right. And because we've normalized the chaos, we've normalized the dysfunction.
Yeah.
We see it as something that's, hey, it's just every day we need to deal with, and that's something, and that's why, maybe that's just why,
yeah,
during the time when the world shut down and people couldn't mask,
yeah,
they couldn't mask their disabilities, they couldn't mask their abnormalities, their inabilities to function. Maybe that's why we saw the murder rate skyrocket over the last 2 years in these urban settings,
mm-hmm,
where you have new records for the amount of homicides committed during the calendar year. And see the aspect of what happened. People saw the smack, and then Will Smith looked, no, it wasn't going to be noticed it wasn't going to be a threat. It turned around and strolled off the stage. But that's not the world we live in.
Right. It would have been immediate gunshots. It would have been somebody doing a ride by, or what they call it, drilling on them.
Listen.
Right.
Listen. The affection of Jada Pinkett's heart. Tupac acted emotionally. Walked up to somebody, okay, smacked them, punched them, and the reaction came that night. Yeah. See, it wasn't the Oscars, it was the aftermath of a Mike Tyson fight.
Yeah.
And everybody knows, so we don't want to correlate that. But look at the irony. Look at the irony.
Yeah.
Wow,
that's something to dive into there, because if she's trying to, we're gonna leave it alone. Trying to move past Jada and Will.
So what some of the things, what are some ways that we can expect. So we have such a healthy banter. People don't even believe
Hmm.
sometimes with
Yeah,
like
it's really just us talking.
yeah
We
we
normally talk,
oh
but I would say, and for sisters, and listen, um, not to even get too much into it. I know it's like I'm talking about somebody else's relationship, so I will say this: I've always been, I guess, married, so to speak. Well, not literally. I literally have been married, but even with that, I can say that that was a form of protection for me mentally and spiritually and physically as well. And I say that because even if I was in a bad relationship coming into this relationship, there was so much that I was able to recognize right away. There was so much that I was able to listen to recognizing you. Like when you would tell me certain things, it wasn't like, oh, you ain't gonna tell me what to do. I recognized immediately that he was coming from a place of, I love you, woman. I need you to be safe. I need you to listen to these things, do these things, don't do these things. And I'm not telling you, I know you're a grown woman, you're capable, you've accomplished this, but I need you to listen to me because this is a walk that I've walked. So one of the things I would say about that is learn from your experiences that you had in the past. Carry yourself accordingly. Don't put yourself in situations that would require you to have to put a black man in danger, would have to further destroy his wellness. We often talk, oh, the black man has so much on him, and who's putting it on him? Everything ain't the man. Sometimes this is us. It's what we are doing and it's what we're not doing. We have a responsibility to cover them just as much as they have a responsibility to protect and cover us. It's a mutual thing. So that, like I said before, when you are able to listen to your man, that is a skill you need to develop. It's not somebody always trying to tell you what to do or how to dress or how to act. This is a man who is a man who is telling you how men think. It's a great thing when you have learned from those experiences and you do carry yourself in a way where men don't approach me in a certain way. It just doesn't happen. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't happen because, for one, they know, I have a man, and they know my man don't play about me. He don't play with me. You understand? We gonna get into all that, but they know that. And also because when they come to me, I include him. You can't be my friend if you can't respect my man. You can't be in my world if you can't respect my man. You can't talk about honoring me if you don't honor my relationship. And when I see that you're trying to play the fence or do this, I love you, brother. I want the best, but I got to cut you off
mhm.
because I know who's gonna be there for me. You understand what I'm saying? And there's no, well, I'm gonna hold on to him so I can make this choice, which is what a lot of sisters do. You hold on to the one where you say he's a good guy, but I want this bad one for a little while. You can't do that. So we have to be smarter. We have to be more responsible, be better, stewards of our life and our decision making, and stop doing things that are, contrary to us being productive and being spiritually and mentally sound. We do all those things, and then we destroy ourselves mentally. Then we expect somebody else to come and fix it, or somebody to take all the abuses that we've allowed to happen to ourselves. Like, you can't do that, you know. And ask yourself this question: would you protect you? You know how you are. You know how you carry yourself. You know how you talk to people. If you were the man and you had to be in that position, would you protect yourself? Really take accountability. And that is a hard word for a lot of us. I know that. I know it is. And a lot don't want to admit it. But if we care so much about the black man, we love the black man so much, then we have to, again, start respecting him as such. Stop putting him in positions where we know harm could possibly, be brought to him. Stop taking those moments because it's a gift. Men aren't always as easily vulnerable as we are. So when he is, and you're fighting, don't use that against him. You know, are you contributing to his mental wellness, to his strength when you're doing that? When you're saying, "Oh, well, you was a little boy, used to pee in the bed." Oh, you know. I'm just saying, it's just stuff like that. I've heard people like at family get-togethers arguing, like, "Yeah, because when you was this, don't do that in front of people. That should stay at home." And I'm gonna say this female's name one more time, Jada. Had she covered that man in any way before that happened, I know he wouldn't have reacted that way because she wouldn't have allowed him to act that way. But she needed that because, again, it wasn't about his ego. It was about hers. Everything leading up to it was about her. Does she listen to him? No. That was clear in the red table discussion. It was clear in the way, it's clear in the way that she talks to other people about him. It's clear in the way that she's able to flaunt a man who is gone from this earth over the man that she married, who has protected, provided, and all those things, all those utilities that y'all say you want. He was doing all that and more. And what did she still sabotage this man?
Hmm.
So it starts with us, get that therapy because we need it. We're damaged. We are damaged. Even if you think you're not, it's in your DNA.
Mhm.
Yeah, it exists in your DNA for generations and generations and generations. So it doesn't start with getting therapy. It doesn't start with, like I said, carrying yourself appropriately and asking yourself that very important question. Do you deserve protection? Would you protect yourself? Because I'm sorry, I don't think every woman deserves protection. And I don't think every man should be listened to.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a difference between a man and a male.
Honor and
It,
integrity.
it absolutely.
Honor and integrity. And those are things that words that carry a lot of weight. They get thrown around a lot. We talk about accountability,
Yeah.
um, honor, grace, integrity.
Mm-hmm.
Those are very important factors in terms of that.
Yeah.
You carry yourself in such a way.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to assume
Yeah.
that this particular or a situation that could become dangerous was
Mm-hmm.
you're doing. Now I can run out there and defend you with my life.
Yeah.
You didn't cause that situation. You're not an arbiter
Right.
of creating those situations.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So now I'm comfortable with that. It's not, you don't see me as disposable. I know you would never put me in a situation.
And that's major.
You know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? And so those are things we need to understand and work on. And as men, we need to also set a standard and say, listen, if this is the requirement for the protection,
Mm-hmm.
respect is paramount.
Absolutely.
Because respect to a black man is love.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So respect is paramount.
Absolutely.
Being able to, to show, to honor me when I'm not there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Uh, because now, people know that, like I said earlier, I deal with her, I got to go through him.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even a question. I can't even see if there's a loose chain in the link.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a loose link in a chain, you know. You know what I'm saying? I can't see if there's a part of the fence that's not covered,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And we can go on, but I'm glad. I'm not happy that it happened. It was one of those situations that kind of sickened me to my stomach, to be honest with you.
For days.
It really, I mean, very few things that happen in Hollywood make it hard to sleep. It was hard to sleep.
It was.
We were talking about how our moods were changed, how we had to change the energy. The whole community felt like it was just a dark and dreary place. You know what I'm saying? And that just goes to show the effect that these acts can have, because it does impact us somehow, some way. Um, and I think it's an important conversation. It's an important talking point, because now we can start talking about mental health.
Yeah.
And with a more serious focus on it, not just some random conversation and that be going to the 24-hour news cycle.
Yeah.
We could talk about consequences. What they really look like, depending on your tax bracket.
Yeah, exactly.
We could talk about this whole notion of protection. Really have the conversation.
Yeah, because there's more to come on that. But again, this was a great way to introduce it. Because when I tell you, sisters, I'm disappointed. And I'm disappointed in the amount of sisters who are saying, yeah, that's how you protect a black woman. By ruining yourself, making yourself disposable. I'm supposed to applaud that. No, that wasn't protection. That was anything but protection. That was ego. That was an abused person acting out. That was a narcissist nodding, directing her subject to go do her bidding while she laughed, almost with a I don't even want to talk about this woman no more, but almost with a satisfaction of knowing Well, now he's a D-list like me. And you got to be careful about that too, brothers and sisters. Sometimes your mate can be jealous of you and secretly try to sabotage you from the inside because they're the closest person to you. You got to really, really be careful about that. Okay? You can't be vulnerable with everybody. You know, you got so many sisters now who are just like, I just want to be with somebody. I don't want to be alone. And you'll get yourself in a situation where you end up with a male version of Jada or Juno. I'm gonna leave that alone too. I'm done with it. I'm done talking about it. And I also want to say, y'all, look at this full beard. This is what happens with alopecia when you get that stress out of your life and you act right. Yeah, you get a beautiful full beard like this. Okay. But anyway, thank you so much, baby, for just having this conversation with me. Because again, I have my moments with you all and I talk, but it's always just me. And sometimes, we don't necessarily we can't I don't have that issue, but it's hard to listen to your man because you feel like he's just going to tell you things that's based on an agenda that he wants to accomplish. But if you're hearing from a man that you somewhat maybe respect, that you have, seen be who they say they are, right?
Mhm.
You are who you post to be, and I'm making a pun at social media, but I'm saying when you see someone who is honorable, who has dignity and integrity, and is speaking to you from that space. And I've even heard women say, well, oh, he don't like women, he hate women. It is crazy to me how when a man holds you accountable, that equates to hate. And you gave a perfect example earlier before I end, when we were talking about this, and you said, well, as far as a parent, when a parent is holding her child accountable, a mother is holding, her son or daughter accountable, does that mean she hates a child? No. And that's not to say that women are children to men, but we do have our roles to play when it comes to balance. You know, Jada had her power, but she chose to abuse her power, and she stripped Will of all authority. All right. So, did you have anything that you wanted to say before we end?
Just one thing.
What's that?
Well, two things.
Okay.
Well, first, I love you, baby.
I love you back.
but, but more so, um, protection is not policing.
Accurate.
And
Yes.
too often in our community, we want to identify anybody who speaks to boundaries or speaks to um, who speaks to who offers caution in terms of behaviors or corrective behaviors or corrective criticisms. We want to say they're trying to police us, this, that, and the other. Well, all cultures have boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
and we're suffering right now because we're not African centered,
Yep.
and therefore we're not protected by the boundaries because the boundaries are borders, for protection,
Yeah.
from internal and external,
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much it. I mean, you really tapped on the part about uh, us not, when somebody offers us critique, when we're offering it to the children, it's because I love you.
Mm-hmm.
If I didn't love you, I wouldn't say anything.
That's right.
But so when your man is offering you critique, it's not the same thing, and it's not like the critique is a one-way street.
Because we definitely do it. Yeah.
So, so that's pretty much it. Make sure y'all tune in the moments with Milah. We're gonna have more conversations like this, but also get your fitness on. I also utilize the channel to work on certain things. I have certain areas that I'm going to concentrate, and I'm going to go back to January, and I'm going to do the core workout, and I'm going to start working, doing a lot of those things because it's all necessary.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, keep it going. And you can also do the same thing if you're just starting the April challenge and you miss the others in your downtime, definitely go back. It's all about working on the full body overall, but we break it down, in simple 10-15 minute moments and just try to learn some key moves to work on certain areas, some eating habits to change, to modify, making sure we're drinking that water. But again, in more ways than one, we are building power 365. So I'm going to end here. And as I always say, I want you healthy. I absolutely want you healthy, but it's not just the physical, right? I need you mentally healthy. I need us to be mentally healthy as a collective. We need to be spiritually in tune with our own culture so that we can tap into that true wellness. That's another conversation too. But remember, if you remember nothing else, Nothing, absolutely nothing tastes as good as being healthy feels. Until next time.
I should.